for it, find it, make it your own. It's the Get Thrifty Podcast.
Hey Thrifties, welcome back to the Get Thrifty Podcast, brought to you by ARC Thrift Stores. ARC Thrift Stores is a nonprofit thrift store chain. I am your host, Maggie Civic, and we are all about sharing everything that has to do with shopping secondhand. If you're part of our unique thrift culture, please contact us. We would love to promote your business and your social channels and share your stories and advice with our listeners. As always, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at ARC Thrift. Send us a DM and let's chat. Ladies and gentlemen, super excited to welcome Dana to the show. Dana is from Salt Lake City, Utah. We're going to ask her all about Utah. Dana is the designer and creative force behind Sun-Worn Vintage, an upcycled clothing and accessory brand rooted in sustainability and reinvention. Based in Salt Lake City, Dana transforms thrifted and vintage materials into one-of-a-kind wearable pieces, breathing new life into what already exists. Her love for fashion started early and continued through years of sewing classes, where she spent every extra moment honing her craft. After rediscovering sewing during the pandemic with a secondhand machine, she launched Sun-Worn Vintage, turning a creative outlet into her full-time dream. Today, Dana creates custom pieces, hosts monthly restocks, and has expanded into digital sewing patterns, empowering others to reimagine clothing in their own way. Her first design, a bag made entirely of neckties, captures her signature approach: resourceful, unexpected, and deeply creative. This conversation is for the makers, the thrifters, and anyone who's ever looked at something overlooked and thought, what if? Dana, so excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much for having me.
I love your background. It is like your work area, which we are going to totally get into, but let's start with your socials, just in case people want to follow along as they listen today.
Sure. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, which is the platform I share the most on, the most active on, and that's at Sun-Worn Vintage, SUNWORNVINTAGE. And then I also have a TikTok, but I'm going to be so honest, I'm not really active on there. I feel like I put a lot of time and energy into Instagram. But if you are on TikTok and want to give me a follow there, it's also at Sun-Worn Vintage.
Easy, keeping it easy. Love it.
Very easy.
Yes, and they can always Google you or ChatGPT, and we can locate you that way too. So let's back up. I kind of want to know your origin story. Like, how did you get into all of this? What happened?
So I might have a similar story to a lot of other makers and creatives out there. This was during COVID. I was working a job at the time and I got let go of that because of COVID. Everything kind of shut down at the time. And it just gave me this time and opportunity to focus on things that I've always loved, that I've always been like a creative on the side, even with a part-time job, like working a 9-to-5. I was always like painting or, drawing or selling my art prints. Like I've always had that creative drive behind me, even working like random odd jobs just for money. So anyways, when COVID happened, it really gave me this opportunity to have this time to do all the things that I've loved to do. And sewing kind of came full circle at this time. I picked up sewing again, started making these random things that I was like upcycling or fixing at the time. And I was sharing them on my Instagram page, and it kind of just sparked there and people grew interest and it made me excited. And I kind of just kept going with it. I just never thought it would be possible to make this a full-time job as it is now. But I think I kind of just took the opportunity as having this time, which a lot of people did, like I mentioned, and kind of just run with it and see what would happen. And I'm so glad I did.
Oh yeah. It becomes like an absolute full-time dream instead of just, a maybe, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you point to like that one video or that moment where you were like, okay, I can make this work?
I think it was just the amount of interest I was getting at the time. So this was like early 2020. I think COVID was in like March, right? So this was like April, May. I was sharing some stuff that I was making. The one that I remember the most was like a top out of a pillowcase sham, the ones that kind of have like the ruffles on it. They're a little bit thicker material. I made a top out of that. Again, just sharing it, putting it out there. And people were starting to asking like, oh, is this for sale? or how do I buy this? And that's when I was like, oh, wow, like people actually want to like buy my things. Like, this is so cool. And I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. I wasn't working at the time. So it was kind of like, oh, this could be a way to like make some
Make some
income and
money,
also,
yeah.
yeah, and also have fun with it. And I think it was just the interest at the time. Right now, I do feel there's a lot of upcyclers and makers and creatives, which I think is incredible. When I started doing this, I feel like it was definitely a smaller community at the
Yeah.
time, sharing, upcycled stuff that they were sewing, and the sustainable movement was really big at the time. I like can pinpoint when I was doing these projects and sharing them on my story that like reusable straws became really big. And I remember
Interesting.
this was like the same time I started doing this. And I don't know why that just seems like a really long time ago. And it was. I mean, this is like going on 6 years now. So the movement behind it since I've been doing this has gotten really big, which I think is incredible. But I think the reason why I guess it became big for me because at the time I wasn't seeing like a whole lot of it like you do now.
Yeah, it's definitely grown. And you're right. A lot of makers have their COVID story. Did you always enjoy thrift? Like, were you a thrifter in high school and college? Like, walk us through some of that.
Yeah. So thrifting I was thrifting more so because it was what I could afford. My parents got divorced when I was pretty young, and I have a twin brother, and we would always go thrifting. We have like very similar interests. We love thrifting. We love like the hunt. We love the old stuff. And then it didn't seem like it was something that was like not like trendy, but there wasn't like a lot of people at the thrift store where we were going. It was a lot of older people that we would see there, but
Yeah.
we were just going because it was like more affordable. The funds were a lot different in my family. So we were kind of just looking for stuff that we can afford, but also that we liked. I have always loved fashion. And I also learned to sew when I was in high school.
Okay.
So all those things kind of go like hand in hand. I'm always looking for stuff that kind of fits my style and personality when I'm, like out thrifting, like those colors, even like the fun vintage tags.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at the time it wasn't really about finding like vintage stuff. Then I was probably like, I don't know, 15. I think my parents got divorced when I was 13. So it was around then. And it wasn't like looking for the vintage stuff or like the trending stuff. It was just getting stuff that we can afford. So that's kind of where it all started. And then as things progressed, as I got older, I definitely grew fonder of like the more vintage items that were like, better quality, the cool patterns, the colors, even like furniture. I also have like this weird, it's not weird, but like I love like old furniture too. So anything that looked like old or, looks like it has like a story or anything like that, like I'm very drawn to.
Did you grow up in Utah your whole life?
No, I grew up in Santa Maria,
Oh,
which
okay.
is like a small town kind of on the Central Coast. It's like an agricultural small little town. So thrifting just wasn't really like a thing there at the time either. There's like two small ones that are kind of like they're not like a Goodwill or a Savers, like none of those like big name ones. I don't even know what the names of them. I think one of them is called like Rad Thrift, and it's one of like the bigger ones. And yeah, there's just like two that I can think of off the top of my head that we would just kind of like go to and check out. But since I've gone back and like visited home, there's like a couple more that like have popped up,
Popping up.
since
Yeah.
yeah, now that it's like a thing. But
Tell us about the Utah thrift scene.
yeah, so when I came out here, like I said, and COVID shut down, and I started sewing, and naturally I would use thrifted material, to like practice on or to make stuff. That was always kind of like an instinctual thing to go to the thrift store. It wasn't to go to Joann's or Michael's and buy those like big bulk, the fabric things. I would always like to use what I have already that's on hand or like already existing material. So during the time COVID hit, I was kind of like, okay, I can also kind of like go explore things. So there's a couple Goodwills out here. There's Savers, which is one of the big ones. There's Deseret Industries, which people just call the DI.
Oh, people
They're
love
kind of,
that. I mean, people come on this
yeah,
podcast, they're like, they swear by it.
yeah. I found some really cool stuff at the DI. And there's a couple other ones. Uplift Thrift is another one that I kind of like recently stumbled upon, that I feel like a lot of older people are donating to this,
Interesting.
what do you call it? Like,
It's like a charity sponsored thrift, like a
yeah,
social enterprise.
yeah, yeah. And so I've noticed a lot of like older things in there, which I really like. And the pricing, I think is like very fair. I've noticed also since being here over the last 6 years in Utah that the pricing at the thrift stores has like
Changed, yeah.
definitely changed. So I like that one just because I feel like their prices stay,
Pretty consistent. Yeah, there you
pretty
go.
consistent for a thrift. But yeah, I also kind of like driving on the outskirts. I hit a lot of estate sales. There's definitely, I think in Utah compared to growing up in Santa Maria, like I don't know if I want to say like hoarders, because I definitely hoard stuff. So maybe I'm one of them.
Yeah.
But there's tons of estate sales where it's a lot of like the older
Interesting.
people that I felt like held on to a lot of things over the years.
Yeah.
So there's tons of estate sales here.
Interesting.
And it's just, families that are like getting rid of their parents or grandparents, all these things, and have also found some really cool stuff at estate sales. I think I personally love going to estate sales more than thrift stores because it's like you kind of like learn about someone,
And their
going in
story,
there. Yeah, and like what they liked, what they collected, just like their personality, and just like the time of like when they were alive and like all this stuff. And it's like a little time traveling
Yeah,
experience.
absolutely. And you're keeping, giving this item a new chapter. Let's talk about some of the textiles and, what you're looking for when you're either at an estate sale or a thrift shop. Is there materials that you're looking for specifically when you are upcycling and creating these one of a kind, the bags, for instance? Is there specific materials you're looking for to make these pop?
Yeah, I think, well, when we're talking about bags, I definitely was focused on ties for a while. That definitely blew up, which was very exciting. Just a little backstory on the tie bag.
Yes.
I was at a thrift store with my friend. We were kind of just cruising through. I was in the men's section where all the blazers are and all that stuff. And I saw like all these colorful ties. And I think that's what grabbed my attention first, because I'm always looking for like fun colors or patterns or way to incorporate these things, in my projects and patterns. And I saw all these ties. I was like, oh, these would be so cool to use. And bags are like one of my favorite things to make because it's something that anyone and everyone can use. And so
it's hard to make. These are works of art. This isn't just like they're constructed. These are works of art.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah. The tie bag was definitely hard. It was a lot harder to, put together than I originally thought. But when we were at the thrift store, I was just like, oh, this could be so cool. And I was kind of like putting all these ties together. And I was like, oh, these would be so cool as like a bag somehow, like a tie bag. And the light bulb kind of just went off. I was like, I have to make this happen. My friend was looking at me like I'm crazy. But I think she also was just like, okay, I get what you mean. Like that could be really cool.
Yeah.
So took the ties home, kind of drafted some patterns, figured out a best way to make a bag that was, like well constructed, but also displayed all these ties that can kind of like go together, and also just be, a way to like upcycle, commonly found things at a thrift store.
This is such a great idea for a retirement gift. I was talking to my bestie on the way in, and it was like, my husband is a principal, and when he retires, it'd be a great thing to take his ties and make a bag. Does she do custom? So that is the question everyone's going to be asking. If you have old things that are special to you, can you make custom pieces?
100%. I feel like that's a huge part of my business. A lot of the emails I get are for custom pieces.
Wow. Okay.
The tie bag, I think, is one of the most requested. But I've made so many other special pieces for people that inquire, like, oh, I have this blanket, or I have this shirt or something that was like from a loved one or a family member, that people trust me with creating something that they could use and wear, and just like, yeah, it's incredible.
It's a memory.
Something and I wasn't expecting. I didn't even think of it, honestly, when I when I was sharing this tie bag thing, it was as soon as I started getting emails and comments about like, oh, my dad just recently passed away and I have all of his ties. Like, I would love to send these to you. And that's when like I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually like, this is incredible. And it was just, yeah, it became a lot more special than like I originally thought it was.
Yeah,
So
it really becomes more like a passion project and a reward when you're, keeping these memories alive for people. And are you
totally.
totally self-taught? I'm looking at everything behind you, and this
Mhm.
doesn't look like a thrift store like that this looks like a well-constructed workshop. Walk us through your process because it looks quite organized, but I know you
I
use
cleaned it for you.
Oh,
I cleaned it for you. Normally it's like a mess. I'm a pretty chaotic, messy worker. Yeah, I think process wise, like I said, I learned to sew in high school.
mhm.
I loved it. I was like always in there. I loved the class. It was a class that I always looked forward to. I was in there during like lunch period, just making stuff just because I would rather be in there than be outside during lunch. I always dreamed of like going to FITM and, doing the whole schooling thing, but that just was never, it also just felt so out of reach for me too.
Mhm.
And then I ended up moving out of my hometown a few years after I graduated, lived in San Diego for a few years. I worked in coffee for quite a bit. I think it was like almost 10 years I was in coffee. So after I left high school, I never really kept up with sewing. It was just something I really loved. And then I was like, okay, now I got to like go live my life and figure out what's next. And so fast forward, like I said, when COVID happened, I was like, oh, I have all this time to do all these things that, I never had time for. And so I picked it back up, and I'm majority is self-taught, but I in the beginning of COVID, I was kind of like almost relearning
Mhm.
it, right? Because it was a long time since
Yeah.
high school and doing all that stuff. So I was relearning a lot, watching YouTube videos, a lot of like trial and error. I bought a sewing machine off KSL, which is like a Craigslist here in Utah,
Mhm.
where it was just a beginner friendly sewing machine. And when I bought it, I knew exactly how to set it up and how to use it. So it was kind of like this like muscle memory thing where I was like, oh yeah, like I totally remember all this. And I just kept sewing like daily and sharing all my stuff. And then yeah, over time the interest just kind of grew, and I just kept going. And I feel like looking back on stuff from the beginning of when I started, it's very like cringe, I guess, but it's also like realizing like, wow, I've come a long way
Yeah. All in
since.
good time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's all growth.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good thing it's cringe, because then you're like, oh wow, like I don't know.
We all have those, but that's what brings
Yeah.
you to the good stuff. You
Yeah.
have to go through those cringe moments to get to the next. And I have to ask you a little bit about San Diego. I didn't know that was part of your origin story. I'm
Hmm.
from Southern California, so I was
Okay.
in college in San Diego. So what part of San Diego did you live in?
So when I moved there, my older sister was living there at the time, and it was kind of a way we went there to visit her a few times, like my family when she was there, and I really loved it. Coming from a small town, it just felt like this big city life, and it was also
I
really
know, and
pretty
it's
with all like
still a small town. Yeah.
yeah, with all like the beaches and everything. So it was also just kind of like an outlet for me as like a way to kind of get out of my hometown. Like, oh, I'm familiar with San Diego. Like I can get out there and go. So I lived by SDSU off Montezuma, and I
Yeah.
lived in this like it was like a big house where I think people just they would rent him out to the college
Yeah. La
students
Mesa.
there.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not even joking, I think there was 4 bedrooms downstairs, and there was 1, 2, 5 upstairs, and there was
Such
also
cool
like
places.
yeah, but it was just like a house full of, college students. So it was pure chaos. And I rented a room in there for like $450 at the time, which is like crazy to think about. But I remember in the house, there was like a Jack and Jill room where you had to like walk through someone's room to get
To
to
get to the
another
bathroom.
room. Yeah, so that was the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, I lived there. I lived in North Park for a little bit. I
Mhm.
also lived like north, like Solana Beach
Yeah.
area
Yeah.
for
Very
a
cool.
little bit. Yeah, I love San Diego. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. When I left Southern California for Colorado, people are like, what are you doing? But I'm like, Utah, Colorado, very similar to California in many ways.
Yeah.
It's really not
Yeah.
that far removed. Yes, there's some snow, but God, we've had none this year. Have you guys had any snow this year?
No, this was actually
Wild.
I think on record, the worst snow
Us
in
too.
history.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
All of our ski slopes are closed now. Like, no, I think A Basin's the last one open. That's so unusual. Usually those stay open until, late June.
It's honestly
Wow.
pretty concerning, a little scary.
Agreed.
Yeah.
On that note, young people finding thrift when it comes to like their concern over climate change and their impact on the environment. You're awfully young. Is that vibe going to continue? What do you think? People think thrifting is cool, finally.
Yes, I think so. I think it's amazing that people are, catching on to it, reselling, recycling, upcycling, all that good stuff. I think it's extremely important right now, especially. Yeah. Like I said, when I started thrifting, it wasn't like a trendy thing. It was more categorized as like low income or, like poor. I don't know how you want to put it, but like now it's more of like a trendy thing and I see everyone doing it and I'm just like everyone's catching on. Like this isn't, it's really cool. It's also, some people can see it as bad, like the thrift stores are, crowded, or that's the reason why the prices are going up. But, I'd rather have it be that than not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. What about your thoughts on, you kind of brought it up, resellers and makers are a huge part of our business now. We run ARC here. I don't know if you've ever been to Colorado. Have you been to Colorado yet?
Denver.
Okay.
Like a long time ago for a wedding. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever come back, you have to check out our stores. We are similar to Deseret Industries.
Okay.
But I'm just curious, like makers and resellers, people have these preconceived notions. Oh, maybe they're hurting the thrift stores. They're buying too much or some ridiculous notions. I feel like there's more than enough to go around. Is that kind of the vibe in your community too, that it's not a competition? We're all in it for the right reasons. And, there's more than enough consumption wise. There's more than enough stuff to go around. Is that the same kind of vibe you experience?
Completely. And I don't know why people see it as like competition or as if there's not enough, because there's way more than enough. There's plenty of stuff to go around. Even if you go to the thrift store, like sometimes I'll go to the thrift store and there'll be like a line out the door, right? And some people will be like, like they won't go or whatever. And sometimes I'll go at the thrift store like afternoon or more towards like when they close. And sometimes that's when I find the best things.
Gems. Yes.
Yeah. So like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you need to be first in line or, oh, I need to find the best thing. Like, it's just, I think it's also just been so overly, what's the word? I don't know. I think there's plenty of it. I feel like it's great that people are doing it. Is it concerning that people are negative about it? Like a little bit, because like, I mean, for what?
For what is a great question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes my producer will highlight something on my talk notes, like to surprise me. And I see this highlight. So I have to ask you, so a transformation you've made that really surprised you. And she has in parentheses, this is a good story here. What is this?
A transformation.
Yeah. A transformation you've made that really surprised you.
As in like something I made?
I'm not sure. I always wonder when she puts these in here. Maybe it is.
Oh no. Am I blanking on something?
I don't know. Any funky story about an item that you've turned into something that's really surprising, maybe?
Well, we're gonna get off this podcast and I'm gonna think of like all these things, but I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but I think kind of just like how I said of, looking back on stuff when I first started to like the stuff that I'm making now, I feel like I'm a lot more selective, I guess, on things that I'm wanting to make and wanting to share. Yeah. I guess the big transformation right now, personally, I don't know if this is what she may be talking about, but from going from, selling stuff online, the labor behind making all these things, restocking my website frequently, to learning pattern making and now focusing on selling digital patterns of stuff that I create so people can learn how to make their own Sunworn
Oh,
vintage.
cool. What inspired
Fashion.
this? Yeah.
So this is when the tie bag thing kind of blew up, and I was getting all these interests in people being like, oh, I want to learn how to make that. You know, I know how to sew. I have my dad ties, like would love a pattern for this. And I would get these messages and emails like daily for the people. There was people that were like, I don't know how to sew. I would love a custom one. And then there was people that were like, I want to learn how to make this. Like this would be a great pattern. And at the time I was like, I don't know how to create digital patterns. Like I just knew the basic of like drafting my own pattern. So when the tie bag came to be, it was me just measuring and doing the whole paper drafting, figuring out the size, figuring out what size ties worked, like the whole trial and error thing. And then when people were asking for digital patterns, I was like, I don't even know where to start with that, you know?
Wow.
But
What did you do?
there was such an interest in it where I felt like I couldn't pass off this opportunity.
Mhm.
So at the time, there was a few makers that were sharing digital patterns, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, I would love to learn how to do this, but like, where do I start? So I reached out to a couple of them, and they directed me to Jessica. Her Instagram, I think, is Jessie Lou's Closet. I'll have to find that for you.
Yeah.
So she teaches courses. She offers courses that teach you kind of like start to finish of creating your first digital pattern and stuff to know. So I reached out to her. We had a chat. I was like, look, I'm getting a lot of interest in, you know, creating this digital pattern so people can learn how to make their own Sunworn tie bag. I have no idea I don't know how to do any of this. Like, do you think this course would be helpful for me? And she was pretty much just like, yes, this is like exactly what you want to do. Like, so she helped me a lot. I took the course. It took me about like 2 to 3 months. I was kind of like in hyper speed at the time with this because I felt like at the time with all the interest there was, I didn't want to pass by, and I didn't want to be like, oh, you know, maybe I'll take the course, maybe I'll not. I was like, no, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So took the course, created my first digital pattern, which was really exciting, which was a Sunworn tie bag where it taught beginner sewers how to create their own, go out and like thrift their ties or use ties from a loved one. It's a digital download so they can print the pattern out at home or use a projector file. So that was a really exciting, I guess, and you can say transformative time for both myself, where I was learning, you know, something I've never learned before, and also just for my business. Like it went from me putting all this labor into sewing daily and restocking my website to having this passive income of a digital download. So
that's got to be what she meant when she had this little note. I love that. And she put a little note here about the inspiration behind it. And I think that, you know, people listening to this, what a great inspiration. Take the class, take the plunge, don't wait, capitalize on the opportunity in front of you. And how cool that occurred with a, you know, fellow maker online. What a great community. Tell us about your community and like your fellow makers and all of that. Is it a welcoming, warm, lovely unicorn space?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like
I think, yeah, totally. And I think that's the reason why it's become what it is today, is because there's so many people doing it. It's very supportive. I think I wouldn't even be where I'm at right now with the support of the community and just, you know, not even, maybe they're not even sewing, but even just like the reseller community, you know, people sending me messages or liking my story or sharing the work, like it all adds up. It all means something. And yeah, the sewing community is it's very strong. And there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of us, you know, just now starting or have been around for a while. And I think it's just beautiful. Like I've made so many internet friends, you know, that I feel like they're like one of my best friends, and I may not have met them in person, but we, you know, like the same things. We're working on similar stuff. We're sharing ideas. And I'm still very new to the digital pattern world. I released my second digital pattern, which was the Sunworn button-up bag, which is a bag created from button-up shirts.
Cute. Yes.
So it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. And I think one of the hardest things is because there's so many makers out there and a lot of people putting out patterns now, it's hard to like stand out in a way of like, what are you offering that's different than other makers out there, you know? And I think that's a hard thing to kind of, you know, think like, okay, what am I doing that's different, or what can I offer to this community and continue to grow and not get kind of like stuck or stagnant in it all? Because it is a little overwhelming. You know, I would be lying if I say, you know, I'm not, when you see other people and they're growing and doing all these things and you're just like, oh, you know, I want to do that or whatever. But I think I realized, like, with it being a community, like, don't be afraid to reach out to them, you know, like make a connection. I'm still making connections with people like to this day about, you know, plans for the future or ideas they have, or people that want to like collaborate with me and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, it's very encouraging and it's a positive place to be.
Yeah,
So
never ending, never ending. And it
truly.
gives me hope in the thrift industry that like people like you are going to keep this industry going for many, many moons to come. You know, that's really
moons.
exciting. Do you think that the digital patterns, I mean, I love that people can see the end product and that's what inspires them to want to do it on their own. Do you think the digital pattern will ever take over the majority of your sales, or are you always going to be doing these custom pieces?
That's a great question. I think in the sewing community, I've noticed a huge shift from going to, I want to buy that, to I want to learn how to make that,
Interesting.
which is really cool. Like, I feel like there's this huge like DIY shift, especially with the time that we're in right now. Things are getting really expensive.
Yeah.
People can't like afford, you know, handmade items like they used to, which I totally understand. Like, I don't even know if I'd be a customer to my own stuff because it could be considered pricey to some people, but in
The
order for
labor.
me to,
Oh,
yeah. So I think it's really cool. And I do think, you know, digital pattern with the, you know, the time that we're in right now in this world, I think it is what the shift is now. People want to learn how to make the stuff. People want to create at their own at a price point that's more affordable. You know, like if someone's getting into sewing right now, they're more likely to buy and download your digital pattern for, you know, 12 to 20 bucks or whatever it is, instead of buying the bag that's, you know, 150 to 200.
yeah.
And it's more gratifying, it's more satisfying. You're learning something new, and then you can take that, like if someone's learning my digital tie bag, they can take what they learned from that pattern and maybe, you know, use it towards like the next thing they try to make. So I think 100% that the digital pattern world and downloads and, you know, it moving that way is what's happening right now, which I think is really cool. It's also, like I said, like a little intimidating because I'm still very new to it, and I'm constantly thinking of like, oh, what could I make next? And maybe I overthink it too much, but
That's part of being a good maker, right? And
I think
bet
so.
you, yeah. And I think the customers for the custom pieces are always going to remain for you too, because there's, you know, like people like my friend who wants to do this special piece, she's never going to find the time to do it herself. So I bet you it'll always be a mix of both, but fascinating that you're kind of seeing this shift. What's next for you? Is there anything big on the horizon? Do you have another project we should be following along to make sure we don't miss out on?
I have another pattern in mind. I haven't started anything yet. Like I said, I just released the button-up bag pattern, which was really fun. I have another one in mind that I think I might start working on this summer, but I really want to get into more like workshops and teaching and kind of being more like present instead of, you know, being behind the screen the whole time, being on Instagram, sharing my stuff that way. Like, I would love to do like more in-person stuff.
Yeah.
Teach workshops. I am speaking with someone right now in San Diego actually about maybe doing a workshop at their store this summer, which is really exciting. So I'm trying to get an idea of, you know, what I would even teach or what that would look, because it would be my first one. So it's a little scary, but it's also exciting. I feel like I need to continue to grow in a sense of trying new things. I get very comfortable, easy, and stuck in my ways. I'm sometimes stubborn in a sense of like, I like to stay in my little bubble. And I feel like I've been doing that for so long where I'm ready to kind of like break out, you know, and take everything that I've learned over the 6 years of growing this business and hopefully use all that in helping other small businesses or people that are just getting started, because it can seem like a lot and overwhelming, and standing out on Instagram nowadays is very challenging.
Yeah. And it can be a
So,
little bit lonely, I'm sure. I mean, you're a lone
yeah.
wolf in a lot of ways. A workshop sounds like a great next step. So we'll have to follow along. Anybody out there that is looking for someone to come teach a workshop, if they own a thrift
Yeah.
store or any kind of like center across the country, reach out and make sure you're asking
Please.
all the right questions to Dana. I like this question again. Sunshine occasionally gives me these fun things. And I want to ask about your thrift hauls because I totally identify with the snot rag in the
Oh my
the
gosh.
Kleenex in
Yeah.
the pocket. That was
Yeah.
the most hilarious video, but I totally identify with that. What do you hope people feel when they discover your work?
Oh, I hope it's refreshing in a sense of, like I said, there's a lot of people sewing and upcycling and, making stuff. And I think it's incredible. I'm constantly seeing different accounts that I'm like, wow, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Or like, oh, I've never seen that before. And I hope people get that reaction when they come to my page. I think one of the hardest things about being on social media is like trying to stand out, or,
Yeah.
if you're making something as like an artist, whatever craft it is you're doing, putting out something that's maybe a little bit different or new and exciting, or different ways to upcycle and use things. Um, yeah, there's just so much out there that's inspiring to me. Even if it's not sewing, I'm following all kinds of like design work,
Yeah.
graphic artists, like just all of it.
And your thrift hauls are pretty inspirational. I don't
Are
know.
they?
They really are. I was watching a couple of videos. I'm like, I can't, it looks brand new. And you showcase that in a really fun way. So, you're kind of, reminding people that creation can be, started at a thrift store, but it's so much, more important than just consumption. And I think that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't done, now that you're saying this, I'm like, I should do more. I
I
should share more thrift
loved
hauls.
it.
I feel
You
like I
put your
haven't done
hand
one
in a
in a while.
pocket, pull out it was so
A
great.
Kleenex. I found money in pockets. We always find, like the Kleenex that are like the most common, and like,
Yeah.
the coat pockets. I found, like the gum, the mints. I'm trying to think if there's anything like,
Wild.
oh, this is actually crazy. So I thrifted this. I'm pretty sure I got it at the thrift store. This was a while ago, but it was just a Levi's denim jacket that fit me really well. Sometimes they're a little bit too oversized, especially if they're like in the men. So I think this was a kid's size because it was like pretty snug on me and it felt really good. I bought it. I had it in my closet. A few months went by and I was like feeling, I don't know what I was doing. I think I put my hands in the
Oh
pocket or
no.
something,
Oh no.
but there was nothing in the pockets. But on the hem part, the
Yeah, the
bottom
lining,
part
yes.
of the jacket, there was like it was like a hard clump of something. And I think when I
Yikes.
first felt it, I was like, oh, maybe this is just like built up fat, like denim or something. But I was like, feeling it like this. And I was like,
What
this
is
feels
it?
like something. Like this
Yeah.
isn't like fabric or denim or something. I was like, this is like something, but it was like sewn into it. So I was like, this is so weird. But I got my seam ripper because I was like, I have to know what this is. And it wasn't on the other side of the jacket. So it made me realize like, okay, that's really weird. This is like something's in here. So I used my seam ripper. I like unstitched the bottom hem of the jacket, and it was a rabbit's foot. Like not
Some
like a
kid
not like
had
a
shoved it in
no,
there. That's amazing.
but it was like a blue rabbit's foot. You know how you have them as like keychains and
Yeah,
people have
yeah.
them as like good luck. And I was like, what the heck? This is so random.
Wild.
Like, so I still have that. I actually have it hanging in my car as like a
Well,
good
you
luck
can never
thing.
get rid of it. Yeah, that's the
No,
kind of
I
thing. Yeah.
yeah, I felt like it was just like the weirdest thing. And it was like sewn into the jacket. It was very bizarre, but I
That
was like, oh,
maybe
that's
that was like a superstitious mama out there who's like, gotta
yeah,
put this lucky, rabbit's foot in my kid's, hem of. Oh, that is so great. Yeah,
it's
that one
so
goes in
weird.
the archive of weird but wonderful. Speaking of weird and wonderful, do you have like an item that or fabric or material or something like amazing that you're super proud that you have found thrift hunting that you can share with our listeners?
Fabric wise, I have found a lot of cool old quilts. I don't
Mhm.
really I don't really upcycle or cut up a lot of the quilts that I find. I used to, and I would do a lot of like custom stuff with quilts that people would send me. But I love them too much. I feel like to cut the ones up that I've personally
Oh,
had,
yeah.
I found some cool quilts. There was like this one really old one that I have that has a whole bunch of people's names stitched on it and
Yeah.
like the date, and it goes all the way to like 1924.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have
You
like
have to keep
little,
that. Yeah.
yeah, little stitches. And I was like, oh, I don't, I want to keep this. I don't want to like cut it up. So that was a really cool find. I also found this really old rug, which was like a Navajo third phase chief's blanket that I think it was cool in a sense that this is something that's very like rare to find in general, but like at the thrift store, it just seemed it was one of those like body high moments where I was literally like shaking because I was like, there's no way. Like I thought it was like a fake or something. But when I saw it and I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, I
It's
threw it
real.
in my cart and I had people like coming up to my cart and being like, oh my
It
gosh,
is
like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, like where did you find that? Oh my gosh. And it was a big one too. Sometimes you find these like in a smaller size, kind of like a bath mat size, but this
Yeah.
one's like huge. It's pretty big. It was a really exciting find for me. I still have it to this day. I ended up getting it appraised because I knew it was something that was of value, but I
Yeah.
wasn't sure like to the extent. So I ended up getting it appraised, and the lady was just like, if you get it professionally cleaned, you can get it for a little bit more, which is what we always recommend. But if you were to, try to sell it as is, it would be between like 35 to 4,500, depending
It's
on.
crazy. Yeah.
It was crazy. Got it for $25. So that was
It's a
really
win.
cool.
And
It's a
sometimes,
win.
your fellow thrift shopper is like the best people coming up to you, the best community, because they're like, oh,
Yeah.
wait, that's a gem. Yeah. Dying to know what it's cost or what you find out if it's worth. I mean, I do
It kind
love
of
that.
just validated
Yeah.
that it was something, excited, because I was excited and I was like, but is this even like real? But then when people were like showing interest and coming to my car, I was like,
Ugh.
okay, I have something good and I need to get out of here,
Yep.
like,
That's the best part of a
yeah,
thrift store when you get
yeah.
validated by your fellow shopper, or they're
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I wish I had seen that before you.
Yeah. You're like, sorry.
Yep. What about the one thing you want to manifest? You have a lot. I mean, Utah is like a hotbed of really epic thrift stores. Are you looking to
It
put
really
anything
is.
out into the universe so that the thrift gods can provide, or this summer, the estate sale gods?
I believe in manifestation. It is very real. I have manifested a few things, which is crazy, even if it's, not right away, or maybe it might be like a year later. I was actually just texting my friend, who I thrift with a lot. I was telling her, I was like, oh, I'm looking for these like specific shorts for like the summer. And I've been telling her that. And I'm like, oh, if you find any while you're out, like, let me know.
Yeah.
I found them last week in my size, same thing I was looking for. And I've been manifesting this for like months. So it's just, I think if you put it out there, or if you think of it, it'll come to you in time when it's right. I forgot your original question, but I just got stuck on
Yeah.
manifesting.
And what you want to manifest. What do you, besides the
Oh,
shorts that had already worked, what are you looking to find?
um, I'm really into denim right now, like good quality denim. I'm always looking for at the thrift store. And when I'm out in thrift stores, obviously I want to look for the good vintage stuff, but it's not always the stuff that I'm picking up. Obviously, that's like what I'm drawn to and what I'm into, and the quality of the vintage stuff. It's very desirable right now, which I totally get. But it doesn't have to be super old for me to like it either. Like I'm also trying to shift that also with what I'm sharing and like the digital patterns. Like it doesn't have to be super old or vintage or, trending. You could be using stuff that you already have, which is kind of how like the button up bag came to be. A lot of people have like button up shirts in their closet, or it could be their dads or boyfriends that are
Oh,
already
yeah.
there that you
Memories.
don't really
Yeah.
have to go looking for. So yes, I love vintage stuff. I always have, I always will, but I'm also trying to tell people like you probably already have it in your closet. It doesn't have to be vintage for it to work, or for it to be liked, or whatever it is. But looking for denim, I'm always looking for different kinds of fabrics. I have a ton of ties right now, which I've accumulated over the years, but if I see a good one, I'm still going to grab it. Or, I mean, there's so many fun ties out there that are, you know, have a
Amazing.
lot of fun. Yeah, like patterns and whatever that, like, I'm not going to say no to it. I got a ton of ties donated to me during the time of the whole tie bag thing. People were sending me like boxes. It was crazy.
Wow.
And they were just like, I love what you're doing. Some of it was
Here's some
from
product. Yeah.
yeah, which was really cool. Some of it was from like private schools where they had a lot of like the
That's
same
cute.
ties.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cute. This lady reached out to me and she was like, you know, we normally donate all the uniforms and stuff like that, but like we came across your page, like we'll send you a box of the ties. And it was really cool. Like, yeah, it's cool to look back on all the people that were like supporting the tie movement that I was going through at the time. But yeah, since then I collected a lot of ties. I still have a lot of inventory of towels when I was, you know, reworking vintage towels, quilts, like I said. I'm trying to rack my brain of what stuff I want to make this summer. I also feel like the stuff that I'm making is also, you know, towards the weather, you know, like here in Utah, especially during the winter and snow. I can't be making, you know, all these like lightweight fabric towel stuff. I have to like turn off to like coat mode or jackets. But I think that's why I've always stuck to wanting to make bags because, you know, you can make them all season or use them all season and people are always going to be wanting to use them or make them. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to rack my brain about what's next.
Yeah.
You know, that's
exciting.
always on my mind. What's
You
next?
never know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure someone listening is going to reach out to you and give you your next project because what you're doing is works of art. And we always say that this podcast is devoted to normalizing secondhand, but really what you're doing and making this your life's work is going to contribute to this industry for many years to come. So we're grateful for your service. Please keep doing it.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, that's the plan. I would love to continue doing this as long as I can, even with the burnout, you know, and the imposter syndrome, which comes once a month, I would say.
It's for all of us. All women experience that 100%.
Yeah. But that's the plan, to keep going. And hopefully just inspire people as I go and continue learning, you know. Like I said, I think my next goal is to do a workshop, do more in-person stuff, and kind of just put myself out there. So
I mean, I totally identify with that. You know, I have a big milestone birthday this year, and I still think I've been working here for 15 years that someone's going to knock on my door while I'm doing this podcast and go, hey, you're not supposed to be here. So totally normal feelings. Let me just, you know, share that with you. It doesn't go away and probably gets worse. And I think women have it worse than anything. So I love that you have a community to support you, and just know that our listeners are going to come to you with all sorts of love and wrap their arms around you. So we're grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. It means a lot. You have no idea.
And as we end every pod, I love to give a shout out to my personal inspiration, Dolly Parton. This goes back.
Dolly.
Yes, she's the best. And you were awfully young to love the queen, but I understand you do, and that you totally love her. So anything you'd like to say to or about Dolly Parton?
Dolly, yeah, I love Dolly. I mean, who doesn't? You know, she's very inspirational, very positive. I did find a Dolly Parton shirt. This was like years and years. I don't even remember. This was like before Sunworn and all that. But I found a Dolly Parton shirt at a thrift store, but it was like XXL, huge on me. So it wasn't something that I picked up, but I got it anyways and gave it to a friend who was like really excited about it. That's the only Dolly Parton story or anything I can think of. I mean, it'd be really cool to see her live one day, but
And let me tell you, finding Dolly in the wild is tough to do. People send me stuff from all over, but the shirts and stuff are like hard to come by. So
as you're saying this, I'm just now noticing all the Dolly stuff behind you. And I didn't even realize it until I just focused in. That's so cool.
Yes. And she's the best. And I have actually seen her live at Red Rocks here in Colorado.
Oh, that's a good venue.
It was pretty epic. So if you ever get the chance, my understanding is she is going to the Sphere in Las Vegas, so closer to you than me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the tickets are just like through the roof. So, but God,
well, now that I know a Dolly fan, if I ever find anything, I know who to reach out to now.
Send it my way. I love it. I have like a vintage 9 to 5 poster that someone found in a book and sent to me as well. So there's just tons of it. But finding in the wild is like becoming harder and harder because everything's so new. But anything Dolly vintage, I'm obsessed. So very cool.
That's
Thanks
good.
for playing
That's
along.
good to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing along. Really appreciate it. Tell our listeners again how they follow, find you, and hopefully buy something from you as well.
Oh, yeah. So again, on Instagram, which is where I share the most of my stuff, I'm on there frequently. Sunworn Vintage. I do have a TikTok, but again, I'm not super active on there. Sunworn Vintage also. And then if you want to check out my website, that's where I sell my handmade things. I try to do at least one monthly drop. I've been kind of dropping the ball on that because I have a lot going on in my personal life, and also switching to, learning more about digital patterns. I've been a little bit slow at restocking my website. But I also have, if you want to supply your own items, or material, I have listings for that, custom inquiries. That's www.sunwornvintage.com.
Easy peasy. Everyone follow Dana, give her all the love, and learn from her. She's open to your DMs, and who knows, maybe she'll be at a workshop near you in the near future.
Yeah.
Love it. Dana, you're a delight. And listeners,
Thank
thanks so
you.
much for tuning in once again to the Get Thrifty podcast. Please save our pod and leave us a 5-star review about how funny, creative, and smart we are. And if you're part of this unique thrift culture and you'd like to be on this podcast, you could find me on Instagram at Podcast with Maggie. And as always, please follow ARC on Instagram and YouTube at ARC Thrift, and now on TikTok at ARC Thrift Stores. Thanks so much and have a wonderful week.
Hunt for it, find it, make it your own. It's the Get Thrifty Podcast.